InCites Training on Webinar กันนะคะวันนี้เป็นครั้งแรกนะคะของการอบรม InCites การอบรมเนี่ยจะประกอบไปด้วยทั้งหมด3เซสชันนะคะครั้งนี้เป็นครั้งแรกก็คือเซสชัน A1 ซึ่งอีก2ครั้งเนี่ยก็คือจะตามไปด้วยวันศุกร์ที่3กันยายนแล้วก็วันศุกร์ที่17กันยายนอีก2ครั้งในส่วนอีก2ครั้งที่เหลือเนี่ยค่ะผู้จัดจะส่งลิงก์การเข้าร่วมอบรมให้ทุกท่านนะคะทางอีเมลเหมือนเดิมแล้วก็ขอบพระคุณทุกท่านเลยนะคะที่ให้ความสนใจในการเข้ารับการอบรมในครั้งนี้ทางผู้จัดขอบพระคุณแล้วก็ถ้าเกิดมีความผิดพลาดประการใดกราบขออภัยไว้นะที่นี้ด้วยนะคะตอนนี้คิดว่าน่าจะได้เวลาที่เหมาะสมแล้วนะคะจะขออนุญาตต้อนรับแล้วก็ต้อนรับทุกท่านแล้วก็เรียนเชิญท่านวิทยากรจาก Clarivate ดร.ลินซึ่งท่านเป็นวิทยากรผู้เชี่ยวชาญเรื่องของการเข้าฐานข้อมูลแล้วก็การใช้และการวิเคราะห์ข้อมูลนะคะเดี๋ยวสักครู่นะคะ Hello Dr. Lin
Hello good afternoon สวัสดีค่ะ
I would like to invite you to give a training to Mahidol University for InCites training on webinar session A1. So, Dr. Lin, please.
Thank you. Sawadika. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julin, and I'm the Regional Solution Consultant from Clarivate. So my role in Clarivate is to help users like yourself make the best use of the resources that have been subscribed for you by your institution. So for today's session, my focus will be on InCites, which is the database that you can use to get more data around countries' research output, institutional research output, or even research area information. The information on InCites comes from Web of Science. So as I go through the session today, if you have any questions, feel free to put those questions into the chat box or the Q&A panel, and then I can review those questions later on. Okay. With me today, it will be a colleague of mine who is her name is Ree. I'll be giving you her contact details at the end of today's session. So if you have any questions pertaining to the access or even how to make use of this database, you can contact either myself or my colleague Ree, who is based in Bangkok. Okay. So let me start now. So this is the agenda for today. The session will take about 1 hour, 15 minutes or so, depending on how many questions you might have for me after the session. Okay. So what I'll be covering will be it will be the first session on InCites. So in total, we have 3 sessions. So this is the first session, which is considered A1, and it will cover the basics of using the tool, how to navigate InCites, what are the commonly used InCites indicators, and also what are the commonly used InCites research area schema. I will also be demonstrating to you how you can make use of the tool to retrieve country level and institutional level data from InCites. And then at the end of the session, I will also show you what an institution's research strength or research focus areas can look like by retrieving data from InCites. So what can InCites help you with? So in today's very competitive global research landscape, you will need a lot of information so that you will be able to quickly benchmark yourself against other peer institutions to compare your strength of your position. You will also be able to quickly identify high-performing researchers to either collaborate with them or even to recruit and retain them. Okay. You will also be needing information to look at your existing collaborations and whether your existing collaborations are giving you the best outcomes. And of course, from an administrator's perspective for the library, it is important for you to take note of the output from the organization so that you're able to identify essential journals to subscribe to and maximize the library's budget. So in a nutshell, the InCites database or InCites tool will help you with all these challenges. So within InCites benchmarking and analytics, you will be able to assess your position using data from Web of Science, and it would include citation indicators, for example, beyond just the citation counts. We will include normalized indicators for you so that you can easily compare the performance of different sets of papers, no matter which subject category they fall under. We also included collaboration indicators. So if you want to explore the impact of your international collaborations, your domestic collaborations, and your intra-organization collaborations, all these can be looked at. We also include open access indicators into the tool because we understand the rising need for open research now, and you will be able to identify quickly which of the content is open access and therefore be able to strategize your publication strategy. We also include 13 different research area schemas, and these schemas would represent the subject areas. So if you want to look at a broad research area, you can do so. If you want specific citation topic level clustering of papers so that you can analyze more specific subject areas, you can also use those schemas. So what is the content within InCites? All the data is pulled from Web of Science core collection, which includes the AHCI, SSCI, SCIE, and ESCI journals. Okay? It would include the science, social science, arts and humanities, and emerging sources citation indexes. It will also cover conference proceedings as well as books. So the data will go back all the way to 1980. So 1980 will be the depth of the information that you can analyze using InCites. So what are the commonly used InCites indicators at the moment? Okay. So when it comes to InCites indicators, it is used to help you to profile an entity. So for example, if you want to look at a country's research output and research performance, you can use these sets of indicators as a whole so that you can build a profile of that particular institution or country. Okay? Because when it comes to research performance and research impact, you can't use just one single metric to measure whether that institution is successful or not. It is always important to look at the multi-dimensions of research from an institution or a country. Okay. So the indicators that I'm going to show you in the next few slides can be very useful as your starting point to help you build that profile of an organization or a country. Now, the first set of indicators would be related to productivity level. So if you're keen to look at an your institution's productivity in terms of research, you can do so by looking at these two indicators. The first one is your total Web of Science documents, and this would show you the number of documents published in the Web of Science. The next indicator that we have on InCites is the publications in JIF. So what does JIF stand for? JIF stands for Journal Impact Factor. So these would be documents published in a journal found in journal citation reports that have a journal impact factor in a given year. I'm just going to open up the chat box in my separate window so that I can see any questions that might come in. Okay, just give me a second. If you have any questions as I go through, feel free to type those questions in the chat or Q&A. Now, the next set of indicators that we have is around measuring the quality and the impact of the research. These two indicators here on the screen will be very useful. So within InCites, we have publication counts for Q1 to Q4 journals in Journal Impact Factor journals. Okay, so these are the documents that appear in quarter 1 to 4 within Web of Science Journal Impact Factor. The next indicator, this is a very, very important indicator. This is called the Category Normalized Citation Impact, which is CNCI. This is a value, this is an indicator that will help you to measure the impact of the research, no matter which year they are published in, which subject area, or which document type. Because this indicator has already been normalized so that you can easily compare one paper against another without without worrying about their subject category. So how is this indicator represented? A value of 1 will represent that the performance is on par with global average. So no matter which entity you're looking at, the CNCI will always be same measurement, which means to say, if you have Mahidon University versus a different university, their CNCI, if your CNCI is above 1, it means that you are performing above global average in terms of research impact. If your value is below 1, your performance is below global average. Okay, so just take note of this very important figure, which is CNCI, and take note that the global average is always a 1. The next set of indicators that is very useful will be performance indicators. So these performance indicators are specific to how well your papers are performing against another set of papers, okay, based on citation. So what we do here is we would classify the documents in the top 1%, top 10%, and these are based on their citation counts. So within the same category, we will put all the papers together and we would rank the citation counts for that year. And then within that year, there will be the paper will be classified as a top 1% if the citations put them in the top 1% of that field. If the paper citations count puts them in the top 10% of that field, means that it is performing in terms of citations in the top 10%. Okay, so there's a question that came in, if CNCI is 1.5 and another is 2.0, this means the one with 2 is much better than 1.5. Yes, that is correct. Okay, so 1.5, it means that this particular university is performing 1.5 times better or more impactful than another university, than the global average university. If it's a 2, then it means that it is performing 2 times more impactful than a different university, than the global average university. Okay. So back to the performance indicators, we have another indicator called percentage of hot papers. These hot papers are those that are published more recently in the past 2 years. Okay, so those that are in the top, those are published in the past 10 years. Okay, those that are hot papers, which is the one at the bottom, these are the papers that have been published in the more recent 2 years, and their citations have put them in the top 0.1%. So it's no longer 1%, it's now 0.1%. Okay, so that's why these are called the hot papers, and these are usually papers that are in the forefront of the emerging research topics. Okay, the next set of indicators will be your collaboration indicators that we have. we have included international collaboration, industry collaboration, domestic collaboration, and most recently, we have an intra-organization collaboration. Okay? So what counts as an international collaboration paper? For international collaborated paper, it means that within that article, within that published paper, there is at least 2 different countries in the affiliation. So it could be Thailand and maybe Australia. So if there's 2 different countries in there, that paper is considered an international collaboration. For industry collaboration, this means that within the affiliation group, there are corporate entities, which means to say, for example, if Mahidon University collaborated with GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, then that would mean that that particular paper is an industry collaborated paper. Then the domestic collaborated papers are those that have 2 or more authors from different organizations within the same country. So an example will be if Mahidon University collaborated with Chiang Mai University as well as Prince of Songkhla University. These 3 universities are all in Thailand, and therefore, and there's no other countries in that affiliation, then that particular paper is considered a domestic collaborated paper, right? And then the 4th one, which I didn't list here, which is just out in last week, is the intra-organization collaboration. This would mean that if the paper has 2 authors that belong into the same university, then and there's no other organization, that is considered intra-organization collaboration. Okay. Now, another set of indicators that is useful to explore, which I will expand on in my next few sessions as well, is author positions. When it comes to measuring research output or research impact or performance, if you're able to quickly filter through, say, how many of these papers are actually first authored by Mahidon University or corresponding authored or last authored, that will help you to make further analysis on the performance of your own researchers within your organization. Okay, so you will be able to filter down to the author positions for InCites. Now on to the next part. So I have explained to you about the indicators, the most common indicators used. Those are measurements, but a lot of times your research can be focused on specific research areas. And for administrators within the university, you might sometimes need to report on how many papers come out from specific subject areas. So on InCites, we have our commonly used InCites research area schemas that would help you to make such analysis. The first type, the first standard schema that we have is the Web of Science subject category schema. This makes use of the 254 subject categories in Web of Science. And this is a classification for journals. So when journals are indexed in Web of Science, they will be allocated a specific subject category on Web of Science from this 254. Okay. One thing you need to take note of is that one journal could belong to multiple subject categories. So if you use this schema, there can sometimes be duplicates or overlap in terms of the paper count. The other more useful, I would say very, very useful schema for researchers, okay, if you want to find collaborators, okay, is to use this schema called Citation Topics. On InCites, we have this particular schema that we have worked with CWTS and our ISI. They have collaborated to launch this classification based on documents. Okay. The classification is based on the citation relationships between documents in Web of Science. So if in contrast to the one that you saw previously, which is the Web of Science subject category, this category is a classification of the journal. But this citation topics is a classification down to the article level. How is this useful for scientists and researchers? It allows you to look at 3 separate levels of topics. So for example, here I have an example on chemistry. So if you use the citation topic schema to do an analysis of Mahidon's research output, you will be able to see a broad 10 macro topics. Okay, so this macro topics will have 10, and chemistry is one of those 10. So this is a very broad level. Now, the next level that you can explore will be the mid-level categories called Mesotopics. These topics would be a sub-branch of chemistry, for example. So under chemistry, you will have organic semiconductors as one of the mesotopics. Then you have the microtopics, which is a subset of the mesotopic. And that's why you see this particular branch here. There is a macrotopic, sub-branch to the mesotopic, and then to the microtopics. Okay. So I'm going to pause here just a few seconds for you to, for me to have a look and see whether there's any questions from the chat or the Q&A about what I presented about the indicators and the schema. Okay. Today, I'm only showing you the 2 commonly used schemas because even though InCites you have more than 13 different schemas, these 2 will be most commonly used and most useful for you as a start. Okay. Okay, if there's no questions, I will move on. So the next part is on how to build a research profile for an institution. So now I will start building this profile that I've been talking about. So I've shared with you the indicators, and these indicators have actually been framed into some a framework like this, where what we call the 510 profile framework for Web of Science. This comprises of 5 areas and 10 indicators. So the 5 areas would be split into 2 parts. The first one is around your research output. So this would encompass the productivity indicators like Web of Science documents, as well as percentage of documents with journal impact factor. Then the quality aspect, this would be your percentage of documents in Q1 journals, okay? And collaborations. So you have your collaborations with industry, international, as well as if you want to include, you can include domestic. Then you have the next 2 areas that make up the research outcome. Okay, because the research output is the area where you have the control of. Okay, so if you aim to refine your output strategy using the above indicators, ultimately the outcome, these will be translated into research impact, which is impact relative to the world. So impact relative to the world is not normalized to subject category. So this is a general impact indicator. Again, 1.0 for impact relative to the world is global average. Anything above 1 is above global average. Anything below 1 is below. Category normalized citation impact, CNCI. This is based on subject categories. So it will be normalized to the subject specialization. And then the next aspect is your research performance. How well are you performing? You would have the percentage of documents in top 10%, percentage of documents in top 1%, and the hot papers, which are the papers in the top 0.1%. Okay? So you can make use of this framework as your practice framework. So after today's session, take the next few weeks to try InCites and use this framework to build a profile for Mahidon University or even other universities in the world. Okay. There's a question on how often does the data feed in the analysis. So how often is the data updated? Okay, the data is updated on a monthly basis. So I will actually show you later on when I go to the platform how to see the date of the data refresh. Okay. So I talked about profiles, but I wanted to put this into an example so that you can see what you can do with this data. Okay, it looks like a very busy slide, but this particular chart, which I call the scatter plot with the bubbles and all that, this is a standard visualization that you can extract from InCites. Okay, you will be able to see the bubble sizes. So this particular scatter plot helps you to visualize 3 indicators in one chart. You will be able to put in Web of Science documents, CNCI, which is the impact, and the size of the bubble. In this case, I put in percentage of documents in top 10%. So looking at just the 2019 research output for Mahidon University, I am now able to quickly benchmark Mahidon University against other universities around the region. So it very much depends on who you want to compare yourself against. You can just pick and choose the specific institutions and put this into a visualization chart. Once you have extracted this visualization, the other indicators that you require can also be fed into your slides so that you can easily see at one glance the profile of the university. You will see that you can include the quantity, journal impact factor percentage in Q1, CNCI, and international collaboration. Okay. So from here, you would then be able to make some inferences on comparing Mahidon University against others. So now I will go into how you can retrieve all these data points, and I'll explain how to use the platform better. Okay. Let me just show you how to access InCites. So from Mahidon University Library's homepage, you can go to the e-access login, so e-journal, e-databases login. Okay, so go to ejournal.mahidon.ac.th, sign in, and then look for the e-database and go to I. Okay, so once you're in I, you would see that here you have InCites Clarivate. So this is the tool that you go into. So it will ask you to sign in from here. Okay. Now, just take note, everyone will need to register for your own account to use InCites, which means to say after you have signed into the Mahidon University e-journal access, the InCites platform will pop up. It will look like a registration page. So I'm just going to quickly show you. Okay. So it looks something like this, and it should indicate that you are accessing this from an authorized network. Okay. Make sure you see that you are accessing from an authorized network, and then you can register for your own ID and password. Okay. Once you have registered, then you can sign in and start using InCites. Okay. The reason why everybody has to register for an account is because this is a analytical tool. So different people would use this tool very differently, and you can save how you want to save certain reports within this tool. Okay, so because today is your first session for InCites, I will go through a basic overview of the platform and where you can get help. The first thing is there is a resource center at the bottom right-hand corner. Okay, in this resource center, this is where you can get the getting started guides to take you around the platform. You can also look at the news and events, any live trainings that are coming up besides the one that I'm doing today. Those will be conducted by our global colleagues. Then we have the contact us and support. This is where you would get your training resources. And if you require a crash course on bibliometrics, Okay, you can always sign in for your self-learning through the Training Resource Center. If you have any inquiries like access issues, password issues, and so on, there is an inquiry section here where you can get some help. Every time there's a product update, this section will be updated, and this number, there'll be a number that appears to show you that there is something new. So if you click through, it will show you the most latest news and what's the new features on the platform. Okay, for first-time users, there's a few simple reports that you can look at. The first one is if you go to report, there is an organization report. So this organization report is a very convenient report if you want to just quickly extract and look at a particular organization's research. So let's say I'm looking at Mahidon University. You can set the date range. So it depends on when the duration of the report that you require. You can set the dates accordingly. If you require exclusion or inclusion of ESCI documents, there is a checkbox here for you to turn this on or off. Excuse me. So this report is a standard report that would cover the research performance of Mahidon University, your collaborations, your journal utilizations, and your most cited documents. Under research performance, you can quickly see all the documents published by proportion to the subject area. So GIPP is another one of our research area schemas that covers the broad 6 categories of research. So you have clinical, preclinical health, life sciences, physical sciences, engineering and tech, social science, and arts and humanities. On the right-hand side here, this would be the Web of Science categories, and this would be the 254 subject categories that we have. Okay, so this is broad level. This will be more narrow topics. If you need the data, okay, each of this chart has a link to view the data. So if you click on this, which I will not do now, but later on, okay, if you click through, you will see the raw data behind this visualization. As you scroll down, there will be the productivity aspect that I mentioned before, which measures the number of Web of Science documents per year for Mahidon University, and also the time cited. And also the CNCI, which is the category normalized citation impact per year. And there will be a baseline here for you to compare against the global average. This would be the documents published in specific journal impact factor quartiles. And you will be able to see how much of your papers are published in each of these quartiles by year. You will also be able to see the impact by subject category, but this would be the broad subject categories. And in terms of collaboration, if you click here, you would see collaborations by country. Okay. So the darker blues will be your most concentration of collaborations. So there's a question here based on scoring system. Is international collaboration more important than domestic collaboration? That's a very good question. So for ISI, we actually published, our ISI team actually published a specific white paper talking about the impact of international collaboration. And in that paper, they found that those that have international collaborations tend to have a higher citation impact. which is CNCI. And the reason is because the international collaborations bring about wider network. You will be able to leverage on your co-authors network, which can be from overseas. And that's why the tendency of getting more citations is higher compared to domestic collaborations, because domestic collaborations, you're still concentrated on the domestic network that you have. Okay, so I hope that answers your question, but I'll try and remember to put in a link to that particular report for you so that you can refer to that later on. Then, okay, so back to this. So in terms of collaboration, you're able to explore how you're doing in terms of international collaborations for each year. And in terms of collaborations for subject areas, you're also able to have a closer look. So in this chart, you can see that for Mahidon University, you have a highest number of international collaborations in infectious diseases. Okay? And also for public environment and occupational health. Okay. So you can see the corresponding numbers, and you can see that UK, you have the highest here, and followed by US. Okay, England is on its own because UK is comprises of Ireland, England, England, Great Britain. Okay, so this and could be quite similar. So there is a way for you to filter out England if you do not want to look at England. Okay. And in terms of your institutions that you collaborate with, this includes all your international collaborations as well. So you have a Mahidon Oxford Tropical Medicine Research Unit, and that's why you have that University of Oxford collaboration there. Okay. But if you go into the data, you will be able to see the additional institutions. Okay, there's a question about whether InCites can use VPN from outside Mahidon University. So to access InCites, it's best to go through your library's website. So through the library's website, I think this is your easy proxy login. So once you log in, this would make sure that you are already on the Mahidon University network through the library. So from there, you can access InCites by registering. So this other tab here, journal utilization, I'll go through quite quickly, can be quite useful to see in which journals do Mahidon University authors outperform the average journal citation rate. Okay, so which means to say for the journals, so many of your researchers publish in Journal of Clinical Oncology, and within this particular journal, your papers are performing 3.4 times higher than the others within this journal. Okay, so these are your journals that you are performing very, very well in. Then you also have which journals do Mahidon University authors publish most frequently. Okay, so which journals you have most publication. And in terms of cited journals, which journals are Mahidon University authors citing? This can be very useful for the library because when it comes to collection management, you want to make sure that you are subscribing to the journals that your authors are using. Okay. Then for the citing journals, this would be what you would see for those journals that are citing Mahidon University authors. Okay. So just some additional insights for you. So what I've just shown you is a standard report. It's a standard organization report that you can generate. You can download it as a PDF, or you can start from this data to start your further exploration. So for example, here under research performance, I can just click on view data. And immediately this table will appear and it will show all the standard filters applied already. Okay. So from this, it could be a starting point for custom analysis moving forward. Okay, so let me just go back to the home page. Okay, there's a question that came in, how to analyze the metric level, how to analyze the metric in level of faculty or researcher. That's a very, very good question. So the researcher level evaluations and metrics I will cover in my third session, which is A3. I think that's happening sometime in September. Okay, so just take note of the date. But I will be covering the researcher level evaluations in my third session. Okay, so today I'm focusing on country and institution. For faculty level, I will cover this in brief later on, but it requires an add-on subscription to customize your faculty structure. Okay, because InCites will not know Mahidon University's faculty structure in detail, only you would. So your administrators will have to go into my organization and feed that faculty structure in before it can analyze by faculty, right? Okay, so I started with the standard report. The other thing that you can do is a customized type of report. So if you want to start an analysis from scratch, there's an opportunity for you as a new user to be guided through. So there's a start an analysis here. And you can just choose, I would like to analyze any of these entities. So I've talked about, so these are the various levels that we can look at: researcher level, organization level, location, which is by country or region, research area, publication sources, as well as funding agencies. So depending on what you want to analyze, you can choose the one that you require. So you can choose organization performance. And then on the right, these are some of the guides that we have to guide you along to start a new analysis. Okay, so all these are, I would say, tour, like a guided tour to teach you what to click on. Okay, but for today, I will be teaching you immediately how to customize a report for yourself. So I will start with a country level analysis. Okay, so if I'm keen to look for a country, I can go to locations. So every time you're using InCites, the last analysis you do, the filters will always be there. Okay, so always remember to clear all the filters if you want to start a new analysis. Okay, so once you have cleared this, by default, it will switch back to the last 5 complete years, which is 2016 to 2020. And the schema, which is, remember the research area schema I was talking about, that it will be standard as Web of Science. Right? So to use InCites, actually all of us just need to be experts in applying filters. Okay? So it's all about applying the right filters on the left-hand bar. So you can see here, there are many types of filters here. So depending on what you require, you apply them accordingly. So let's say I want to find out about ASEAN countries. Okay, so countries in ASEAN. So in this search box here, I can type in ASEAN and there's an ASEAN region. So this would immediately put in the 10 ASEAN countries into the chart. Okay. Now, some of you might say, I don't want ASEAN countries, I want specific countries. You can do so. So you can put in Thailand against USA, or even Malaysia. Okay, so this you can custom build this list for yourself. Okay, if you don't apply any, then it will just show everything that is available on InCites, which is 214 locations with 15 million documents. Okay, you can see 214 and 15 million plus documents. Okay, so let's use ASEAN as an easier starting point. Okay, so you have 10 countries here, and you would be able to include indicators. So remember, I talked about indicators. So the indicators will appear at the top of the table here. Depending on what indicators you require, you can add those indicators through this tab. Okay. So I would include those 10 indicators that I've described to you on profiling. So I can include Web of Science documents. I can include top 1%, top 10% documents in GIF, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, or even the percentages. So as a beginner, if it's the first time you're using InCites, you might need some help by clicking on the indicator to get an explanation before you add. Okay? But once you're familiar with the indicators, you can include them quickly by using this add indicator. You can just choose what you require and then apply. So once you've applied the set of indicators, it will appear here, and you can sort this list by the various indicators. Okay. So currently this list is sorted by Web of Science documents, and based on Web of Science documents, Thailand is ranked number 4 in ASEAN for this year's, which is 2016 to 2020. Earlier on, somebody asked about the update. Okay, the data is updated and the information will always be here. So the latest update was on the 30th of July. Okay, the 30th of July with content from Web of Science that is indexed through June 2020. June 30th, 2021. Okay, so you will be able to see this information. And when you export any of this data, so you can export this data, it will also reflect at the bottom of the Excel spreadsheet. Now, since I'm here at the export function, I wanted to just show you how to do this. Okay, so if you can remember, this is 2016 to 2020 data. So this total accumulates 2016 plus 2017 plus 2018, 2019, 2020. So this is the total of that 5 years. If you want to export this as a trend, so you can export this as trend data. Load. And the data will show the individual years. So you can see here now, Thailand has the 2016, 2017, 2016, 17, 18, 20 data. So the individual years will be exported. Okay, so just a repeat. If you do not check this box, it will export this number. If you check this box, it will break this number down into the individual years. Right. Okay, the next thing is about the filters. Okay, back to the filter. So let's say now you want to compare the country Thailand versus another country based on a specific research area. Okay, so let's say I want to now see how Thailand is doing in comparison to others based on a specific research area. You can either use the Web of Science schema, research area schema. Okay, just go back here again in case you missed it. So that the filter that I'm using now is research area. Okay, here you can choose a specific research area. Let's say agriculture, medicine. Okay, let's do clinical. So all these are the clinical topics. What about medicine? Okay. Let's say medicine, research, and experimental. We can choose that. Okay, and then update the result. And this would be the paper specific to medicine, research, and experimental across the ASEAN countries. Okay, and now you can see that for this area, Thailand is ranked number 3 in terms of the output. And depending on your indicators that you've included, you can now see quite clearly the CNCI of these sets of documents for each of the countries. Okay. Now the numbers here in green, okay, if there's a number, then you can see you can click through. It means that you can export this list of documents. So if you click through to this set of 900 plus documents, you can either go and view in Web of Science, or you can download this as a set of papers as a CSV. The other thing is if you want to add additional filters, so if you want to add author positions, you can also do so. So for example, if I want only the first, last, and corresponding authored papers in this subject category, then I apply that filter. And then now I can see these are the papers that are first authored, corresponding authored, or last authored by those representing countries. Okay. Okay, so now the next thing is your visualization. You can visualize this data into a graph. Okay, you can choose different visualizations here. So we have pie chart, pie graph, bar graph, bubble graph, trend graph, and so on. Okay, one of my favorites is always the scatter plot because it allows me to show 3 indicators at one time. So by looking at this scatter plot, I can put in the x-axis as my Web of Science documents to show productivity, y-axis, which is the CNCI, to show impact, and then also the point radius. It depends on what I want to use this data for. I would choose either international collaboration so that I can see how open a specific country is to collaboration. Okay? Or I could even put in performance, so percentage of documents in top 10%. Okay, to see. We have a maximum number here. So the maximum number of records that you can visualize is 15 at the moment. Okay, so just take note. And from here, you can see the various countries. And if you hover over each of the bubble, you can see the details. So this chart can be used on any of your presentation slides or documents, and you can just export this as an image or a PDF. Now I have another question about the faculty level analysis. So it looks like it's something of keen interest to everyone. So I will show that to you later on. Okay. Okay, now the next thing is about your institution. If you want to see your own institution, just go to Analyze, Organizations. Okay. Make sure to remember to clear the filter. Okay. And what is the first thing we need to do? We need to filter. So either you put in the organization name here, or you put them under this filter here for organization name. So I'm going to put in Mahidon University. You can either choose this institution. If not, if you just want only Thailand universities, Thailand organizations, use the filter. So you can use the filter to filter by location. You can put in Thailand, update results, and this will be all the organizations under Thailand. Okay. Okay. It sounds like everyone's very interested because I've also got another question on is InCites suitable to analyze individual researcher? Yes, possible. So I will also show that to you in more detail in my third session, which is on individual researcher evaluations. Okay. But we only have a limited time today, so I'm only showing you in detail the country and then the institution analysis. Okay, so now we are at institution analysis, and you can see the Thailand organizations. You will be able to quickly see which filters you have applied, and you would see Mahidol University right here. If you want to limit this down only to academic organizations, just choose organization type and include academic. Update. Then this list becomes only the academic institutions from Thailand. Okay. So for Mahidol University's papers, if you want to make analysis, of course, you have all these indicators here. So this is in terms of the total output for Mahidol. And this is covering all the 254 Web of Science subject categories. If you want to find out about the performance of Mahidol University's research area or any of these universities, then you click on the Web of Science documents, which is this one, and choose refocus to view research areas that this entity has published in. Okay, and go. So to answer your questions about faculty level analysis, at the moment, this would be the closest that you can go to evaluating a specific school or a specific faculty, because if you're able to do a broad categorization, so let's say, for example, you choose the schema. So you research area schema, you choose GIPP. Okay, then this would show you the broad high level specialization. So it could be your different schools here. It could come from the health science, life science, physical science, engineering and tech, social science, arts and humanities. So if you're talking about faculty level comparison currently, this is the closest that you can probably get into, because InCites does not know the full faculty structure of Mahidon University. So in order to do that, an administrator from Mahidon University will need to use this feature called My Organization, which is an add-on feature that currently in Mahidon University does not have, okay? And use this feature to customize a hierarchical structure within InCites so that you can see different faculties in Mahidon, okay? So I will explain to you in a short while. But coming back to the research area of Mahidon University, you will now be able to see quickly which are the top research, where's your research strength, and what are the indicators that correspond to that subject area. Okay. Okay, so just coming back to my presentation slide, I've shown you the country level information. I've shown you the institution reports. Okay, and now I'm diving into the research strengths. So when you're extracting research area data, this is the kind of information that you would be able to see. So for Mahidon University, I would mention that you can use Web of Science or Citation Topics. If you want something even broader, you can always use GIPP. Okay? And this is the kind of information that you can see. For this particular chart, I have used the schema of Citation Topics so that I can quickly show you Mahidon University's top 10 broad research areas performance. And this is based on data from 2010 to 2019. So using the scatter plot again, I will now be able to see you are doing exceptionally well with clinical and life sciences, okay? With 13,717 documents for that 10-year period, and your CNCI is above global average. Then further down, you would see agriculture is your second largest contributor, but it's way far away from your clinical and life sciences area. Okay, so it means to say you have very high concentration of your research in clinical and life sciences, but not so much in the others. Okay. And then the size of the bubble is the performance of your papers, which I put in as top 1%. Okay, you have quite a lot of publications that give you good output in physics. Okay, but again, even though it says that the performance is very high, a good thing to do is to explore the authorship to see whether those papers are indeed authored by Mahidon University or not. Okay, because of the first author, last author, and corresponding author filters. Okay. And the other thing that you can see is the chart. So I showed you the InCites chart, and this is the table that you would see. And by comparison, you can quickly identify areas of strength, challenge, and potential. So areas of potential would show if, for example, even though you might not have a high number of publications, if the CNCI is higher than global average, that could be a sign that there is potential in that particular research area. Okay? Then Of course, you can also dive into the mid-level to show the more narrower research topics that you are doing. And, and if I do the mid-level clustering, I can see that you have malaria research as your top contributor, followed by virology and HIV. Okay. So this scatter plot can be very useful. It's a bit like a SWOT analysis kind of thing, where you can see those on the top right-hand corner, those are the research areas with high output and high impact. Those that are at the bottom left, those will be the topics that have low output and low impact. And this would then help you to carefully strategize your research area focus. Okay. Again, same thing, this would be your table with the needed data for each of the subject categories. Okay. So for this one, I've actually highlighted some examples of strength and potential for Mahidon University. So your strength is definitely your top three because all of them are above. So your CNCI is very, very high. It's quite high, above global average. Okay. And you will also be able to see the potential areas, which is your phytochemicals research, okay, and your entomology and nutrition and dietetics. So I've shown you how to extract this information on InCites. Okay. So just coming back to the database here. So on InCites, this is where you would start if you want to look at Mahidon University's research area. Okay, choose the schema that you want. So if you want citation topics, you choose citation topics. And this is based on the papers, specific papers. Okay. So if you want to find out, say, clinical and life sciences, which are the subtopics that Mahidon is good at, then you can select this and click show only, which is the bottom here, show only. This will take you to the second meso level. So the levels are differentiated by the decimal point. So if there's only one decimal point, it means that it is an mesotopic. Okay, with 2 decimal points, it will be microtopic. Okay, so from here, again, you can use that same indicator set and do a comparison across this. And if you want to find out under parasitology, okay, select this and then click show only. This would give you your microtopics. So you see the 2 decimal points. Okay, so majority of your research is on malaria. And if you want those papers, you should just click on 593 and then download the table. Okay, so this is the research area navigation. Again, just remember, you will be easily able to, you can easily filter any of this depending on what you need to find out. So for example, here, I've only filtered these few things. If you want to filter this down even more to say, out of these papers, which are those that have international collaboration, either you put in the international collaboration indicator, which is this one. So you have 526, okay? Or you go and click on domestic or international collaboration and say international, okay? And then update. So with that, then it will apply that filter for you. And this number you see will be your international collaborated papers. The same thing can apply for things like authors per document. So you can, there are certain papers that have large number of authors. Okay? Those sometimes can skew your data a bit. So if you want to remove those outliers, you can also filter this down to authors per document and limit this to say 10 authors. Okay, so each paper I want to only see those that have 10 authors and below, and then you update. Okay, okay, so that is for Mahidon University itself. Okay, I'll just now I will just quickly show you my organization in case you want to consider this add-on. Okay, so if you have a subscription or add-on to the My Organization interface, this is a sample university structure that we have. Okay, so you have this is an example from Singapore, SUTD. You're able to put in your organization structure, for example, by pillar, by cluster. So let's say engineering, you have these authors. So all these can be your schools or your departments. So you can do 4 levels. Okay? And within those schools, you would see the individual authors. So to do this, you just have to build a template that would give the structure as well as the documents, the DOI or the DOIs of the documents by the authors. Then we will be able to fit this in and you can use this for your analysis. Okay, so this is my brief overview of my organization. The question that came in is, for industry collaboration, does it include both national and international industry? Yes, so the industry collaborations will include both the national and international industry, but it also depends on the size of the organization. So for example, if it's a very small lab, okay, if it's a very small lab not registered and they do not have a large number of science documents, it might not be reflected as its own entity, okay, but it will be still counted as part of your industry collaboration. Okay. And where could we filter first author, corresponding author publications? Okay, I'll show that to you. So let's go back to organizations. Okay. So on any of the filters here under organization, there is an author position filter. So this is where you filter by author position. So I want to include only the first author, last author, or corresponding author, and then update. And this would be all the documents that have been first authored, last authored by Mahidon University. If you want the individual breakdowns, there is an inclusion of the indicator. So if you add the indicator here, there is an author position. So this would, you can put in the first and apply. And this is very convenient for reporting purposes. So if you just want to see the first authored paper from Mahidon University, then just click on this 8651, and then you can download this. Same thing for last author and corresponding author. But take note, there could be an overlap because a corresponding author can also be a first author or a last author. Okay. There's also open access filters here. So if you want to see how much contribution to open access you have, either you use the filter here. If not, then you can include an additional indicator for open access. So you can see all open access. We have DOAJ Gold, Green Accepted, which is your repositories, Bronze, which is your hybrid journals, and so on. Okay, if there's any particular report, so let's say you have built this and you want to keep this as a report, okay, you can go to the visualization. Okay, let me just choose impact profile. So this particular chart is quite interesting as well, where you are able to quickly compare your CNCI, citation impact, across the different universities. But for this one, you can only visualize 5 at a time. So you can compare Mahidon against the other universities in Thailand based on CNCI. Okay, so we've basically taken the articles for each of these organizations and put them into individual buckets. And what you can now see is those on the right-hand side here, these are those papers that have performed above global average because these are all above 1.0 or above global average. And these are the papers that have performed below global average. Then from here, you can see how you're doing in terms of those that are above global average versus the others. Okay. Now, if this is a report that you really want to keep, okay, you can click on Add to Report. And you can save this as a standard report, maybe CNCI Thailand top 5. Okay, and you can create a report or folder. We can create a report. Let's do this, Mahidon training. Done. Okay. And then you find that report, which is here, Mahidon training, and then save. Okay. If there's another report that you want to, another chart that you want to include, you can always go to that chart. Okay, so another one that I wanted to quickly show you is publication sources. So if you want to just see the top journals, okay, this would be where you can look at. Okay. So these are the journals in Web of Science, and if you want just the 2020 data, just filter this down. If you want to filter this by location, okay. So if I only want the Thailand update, okay, so this would show me Thailand's papers from these journals. If you want Mahidon University, then you take this out. So this time around, you filter based on the results. So you filter this down by organization name. So I only want to see Mahidon University's contribution to the journals and then update. Okay, and this would be Mahidon University's contribution to each of these journals in 2020. If the journal has a journal impact factor, you can put in the indicator JIF, journal impact factor, and the quartile, and then you can export this information for your own reporting. Okay. So if this is one of the visualizations, you want reports that you want to keep, okay, let's use the bar graph this time. Okay, and you can add to report. Mahidon Uni Journal contribution, and save it to the report. And where's this Mahidon training? And then save. Okay. And now, next time when you come back into InCites and you want to get the latest data, all you need to do is go to report. Go to organize, go to folders. And then look for Mahidon Training 2021. This is my report. Click on that. And you would see your saved reports here. So you don't have to reapply all the different filters again. You can just do this and it will be there for you. If there's any administrators on this call and there are certain standard reports that you always do, we can work with you to help you to build this standard reports first. Meaning if you have maybe 4 or 5 different reports that you want to save, okay, let us know, and then we will work with your key user to set those up for your key user so that they themselves, when they go in and retrieve, they can easily pull the data immediately. Okay. What else is there that I need to show you? Okay, so the last few parts of my presentation is around the visualizations for today. So I've shown you quite a few different visualizations. So the bar graph can be very useful to look at productivity volumes across different entities or even different research areas. Trend graph, this would help you to have a yearly outlook of the data points that you have. And then the scatter plot is my favorite. it will help you to quickly identify strengths and challenges. And for next week, the next session on 3rd of September, I will be using scatterplot quite a lot for benchmarking. So when you want to benchmark yourself against a different institution, this becomes very useful. And the impact profile. So the impact profile is also good for comparisons of research performance and impact across institutions or even researchers. And I've also shown you all the help guides available on site. So this particular set of documents, this slide deck, I will share with Miss Kanita, and she'll be able to share this with all of you. And you can go back and try to access InCites and try out what I've shown you today. Okay, because this is the first session only, and I don't want to be showing you too much in case it gets too complicated for you. But ultimately, just remember a few things. Number one, remember how to use the filters. So no matter which entity you're looking at, for example, I'll just give you a quick preview of researchers since many of you asked. Okay? For researchers, just remember that you just need to remember how to filter. Okay? So if I want to see Mahidon University's researchers, I will choose affiliated organization, choose Mahidon. Depending on your report, if you want to include, then you can just include that, update the results, and then choose your indicators by using this or this tab here. And to have a clean set of authors, it's always useful to use was author record. Okay? Because this is our algorithm where we have clustered name variants together into a unified name. Okay? So you will be able to quickly see the author's details. But of course, whether this set of information is clean or not depends on whether the author has claimed for their own profile or record on Web of Science. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly show you Web of Science in case. So if you want to claim your own Web of Science author record, go to Web of Science, also through the library's website, and then go to authors. Search for your name. So I'm just going to try putting in anyone in the chat, okay? So I'll just try and find and see whether you have papers here. So no. Okay. Let me try. Is there anybody that wants to volunteer their name? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. There you are. And then Jet. Okay, so you can type in your full name and do a search. The algorithm will cluster your names together. So you can see that for Ajahn Jetsumon, you have 2 profiles here. Okay, so what you need to do is check and verify that these are all you, and select both. View as a combined record. Okay, and this would be your profile. So you have combined these 2 together. Click on Claim My Record and follow the instructions. So you can click Proceed to claim this record. It will open up Publons, which is our external facing platform for profiles for researchers. Okay, so you can create your own, register for your own Publons account here. Or if you already have a Publons account, just log in and then do the claims process. Once you have claimed your author record, the next time you come in here, you will see your own Web of Science researcher ID, and your profile will be claimed and clean, and it will reflect nicely here in InCites. Okay. So just coming back to the profile here, I'll cover this in more details also in the 3rd session about researcher evaluation. But this profile will stay with you, Ajan, for forever. So every time you have a new paper published, you just have to claim those set of new papers and add this to your profile. Okay? And immediately you can see your full publication list, you can see your citation network, and also your author position. So out of, say, 301 publications, how many do you first author, last author, or corresponding author? So this is how you can filter. Same thing goes for, okay, so the other thing is the author impact beam plot. This is something very new, okay, which I will also cover in session 3 to show you the performance of your papers across your career. Okay. So we only have about 10 more minutes, so I'll address some questions that came into the chat. So there's one question. So at this point, can you filter first author or corresponding author? Yes. So if you want to do that, so coming back to InCites, yeah. If you want to filter this for the papers, first author, last author, okay, you add the indicator here under the researcher. So you can see first author, last author, corresponding author, and apply. Okay, so let's say, for example, Dr. Sutat, he has 2 papers he first authored, 39 that he last authored, and 20 that he corresponding authored. Okay, so this is how you can quickly do that from here. So that's it from me for today. Okay, I think that should be enough for you to get started to try it. One more thing, another question that came up in the chat was about JCR, Journal Citation Reports. Can we also use JCR? So yes, you can. Again, you can go and access this through the Mahidon University Library and look for J. And then there's a Journal Citation Reports here. Okay, so you have now got access to Web of Science, Journal Citation Reports, as well as InCites. Okay, so Web of Science you can use for research discovery, exploring the citation network of papers. Journal Citation Reports you can use to look at the evaluate and compare journals based on their citation data. One thing new about Journal Citation Reports this year is that we have added the AHCI and ESCI journals into the report itself. But take note, Science Citation Index Expanded and Social Science Citation Index journals are the only 2 indexes that will have journal impact factor. AHCI, ESCI will still not have an impact factor, but they are given a new journal indicator called Journal Citation Indicator. Right? So if there's a need for an additional training session separately on Journal Citation Reports, just reach out to me and then I can do that session with all of you again. All right. But that's it for me for today. Okay. Are there any other questions or areas that you want me to cover in more detail? Okay. Otherwise, on the screen now, you will be seeing my contact details. So I am available on WhatsApp. Okay. So that's my WhatsApp number and then my email address. A question came in about the language. So for Clarivates, for these sites, we only have English or simplified Chinese. So for Thailand, I think by default, you would look at English. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. You can contact myself, Julin, or you can contact my colleague, Ree, and she is the account manager for Thailand. So she can be reached on the mobile displayed here or by email. Okay. So for example, if you have questions around the My Organization feature that I had showed you earlier on, you can always reach out to her or myself. So Miss Kanita, back to you.
ค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ so or for the training sessions A1, we will have the video recording, and we will send you all to email address after this.
Yes.
So please, Dr. Lin.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much. I will put my email address into the chat box as well, and my colleague will also do the same thing. So in case any of you want to reach out, okay, and then I'll also share the presentation slide. So do register for the next session, which is on the 3rd of September. Am I right now, Miss Kanita?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll see you all on the 3rd of September. And I wish all of you the best, and please stay safe. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Lin. So see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye สำหรับ